Hello and welcome to Code Rhetoric with Tam Talk. I'm your host, Tamara Abraham, and here to talk about all things coding related, medical coding that is. So, ladies and gents, it has been a long minute, and I do mean a long minute, since I recorded a podcast episode. For those of you who follow me, you know I also do other podcasts, so I've been putting my energy into that, and amongst other things. But here we are with contract coding, which is the topic for today's discussion. So I wanted to talk about some of the do's and don'ts as it relates to contract coding, some of the benefits, some of the characteristics or requirements for becoming a contract coding or at least succeeding at it. And then also just to kind of dispel some of the myths surrounding contract coders. But first, I want to get into the myths because I've been hearing it a lot lately as it relates to contract coding. All right. So one of the myths is they are underqualified. Contract coders are underqualified. Now, for someone who has done contract coding, who is like oversaw contract coders, this could be furthest from the truth. And I know that there are some entities, they kind of tiptoe around hiring contract coders for the simple fact they feel that, let's say perhaps they don't have the necessary skill set to do coding. Maybe perhaps they have coding goals, and all coding teams have coding goals. They may not be able to measure up, or the coders aren't well aware of the policies and procedures as it relates to the company's objectives for the particular department. That could be further from the truth as well. And then it said they lack the necessary skill set to complete coding tasks. Okay. Now, I don't know which coders are out there. Who you are, if you're listening, stop that. Stop making contract coding look bad and get the necessary skill sets you need to complete the coding task. Please, 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 please. So, I can only speak from my perspective. I can only speak from my experience as it relates to contract coding. As far as the underqualification, for me, I am not underqualified as a contract coder. I'm actually overqualified. I'm giving myself praise there. And there are so many other contract coders who are qualified, if some of them probably overqualified for the task. Okay. And I also say that the skill set or the qualification of a coder will be dependent upon the individual. Okay, really, it really depends on the individual because it just does. Okay, because there are some really great contract coders out there. Okay, so enough with that. So what does it take to to excel as a contract coder? Okay, so these are some of the characteristics that I jot down. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the things that I feel that are needed to excel as a contract coder. One of them is you must have decent Wi-Fi, internet stability. Okay, call that internet stability. You must have decent Wi-Fi. Why? Because you're working remote. The majority of our contract coders are remote workers. You want to make sure you have stable internet. Okay? Why? Again, because you are working remote. And that is one of the benefits of being a contract coder. You get to work remote. Okay? The next one is having access to an encoder. What is an encoder? An encoder is a resource that a coder is like a coder must have resource. It includes like CCIs, and for those of you who are new, correct coding initiatives. It has access to codes, code descriptions. You may have heard of bundling or unbundling. You're able to plug in all your codes to see if they are bundled with each other. You get to learn like the coding rules. If something is requiring a modifier or not, or if you're needing a second diagnosis or first diagnosis code or ICD-10 code. So, or if you have some questions or you're contemplating or you're in a discussion would say, for example, maybe another coding colleague or a healthcare provider or leadership. The encoder will provide additional resources, access to resources so that you're able to provide factual information. Okay. So it is important that you have an encoder. Now, I received a few questions in regards to accessing an encoder. Who should be responsible for providing the encoder to me as a contract coder? Well, the first one is there are several resources out there where you can purchase it for yourself. I have my own one because I am a business owner, and my business is I am a coding coach. I coach coders. All that. I am an instructor. So it would behoove me to have encoder, and also I am a consultant. So I need to have my encoder. Whether I'm working with client A or client B, I like to have control of my encoder. Okay. So what are the ones that I use? I currently use Codify through AAPC. They have varying prices depending on the access that you need. There's one starting as low as $40, and so you can have it deducted monthly out of your bank account. Another one that I've tried is Select Code through Decision Health. That one's a pretty good one as well. And then you have Encoder Pro, and then the one that the entities have is 3M, which is also attached or associated with Epic. 3M encoder. Now, who's responsible for that? Like I said, I purchased my own because I am a business owner and I work for different clients, and I'm also a consultant, and I like to have those things readily available to me. But I've also worked for clients where they provide access to the encoder, 3M. So if you don't have your own personal encoder, or you're getting ready to work for a client, you want to make sure you ask that question. Ensure that they provide you with access to an encoder. You can't do coding without an encoder, because again, especially if you're like in surgeries, or you're doing multiple procedures and services at the same time, or the doctor is providing those services at the same time, you want to make sure you're not unbundling services, or you're bundling services that can be reported separately. And also learn about your modifiers and things of that nature. So it's very important that you have access to an encoder. The next thing is having excellent time management skills. Excellent time management skills. It is a requirement. There is no way around it. You must know how to manage your time. Why? As a coder, productivity counts. Productivity is very important as a coder. Why? Because we want to make sure and ensure that you are being productive, ensuring that you're actually doing the work, that you're actually coding. So you want to make sure that you have excellent time management skills. FYI, people look at those things. If you had noticed, people do look at those things. They look at your numbers. They do. So if you aren't great with managing your time, you're not going to do well. Another thing too is, I'm speaking from a productivity aspect. So you may be putting out a high number, and that's great. Like you can put out 100 cases per hour. That's great. However, are they correct? This is where auditors come in. Again, I said someone is always looking at your work. So auditors come in to ensure that the work that you are putting out is accurate. Okay? So yes. So that's deviated from the time management, but you want to make sure that you are knowledgeable in the area in which you are coding. And you also want to make sure that you're meeting productivity. Okay? Because again, people are looking at those things. All right? The next one, Excellent oral and written communication skills. Yes, excellent oral and written communication skills. It is very important that you have these skills. Okay. One, again, because you are remote, you are communicating, I would say via virtually, like through meetings, through Teams, through Zoom, what have you. You may have to do some presentations as it relates to coding. And then also, that's where, again, the written comes in, because you may have to present, okay? You may have to write an email to a healthcare provider, leadership of another department, leadership of the coding department. You want to make sure that your oral and written communication skills are on point. And one thing that I would like to add is leave out your emotions. If it's not a celebratory or get well soon email, post, what have you, you want to make sure that you remove your emotions or leave your emotions at the front door. Okay. Because again, although you are working in a remote environment, you're still a healthcare professional. Okay. You are a healthcare professional. And then lastly, maintaining your credential. I received questions about this as well. It is important that you maintain your credential. There have been questions, should the company that I'm coding for, should they ensure that my credentials are maintained? No. It is not their responsibility to make sure that you are maintaining your credential, that you are maintaining your continuing education units. It is your responsibility. Basically, you are your own boss. So your credential is what keeps you employed, or keeps you hired as a, I'm going to say corporate compliance, contract coder. So my question is, if you did not maintain your credential, or you did not keep up with the continuing education units, would you still be able to be employed as a contract coder? I'll wait. No. So it is up to you to maintain your coding credential, maintain your continuing education units. Again, think of yourself like it's your own entity, like you're your own boss. Okay. So would you hire someone who did not maintain their credentials? Would you hire someone who did not possess the skill set that is needed to do the job? If you wouldn't hire yourself, these are the areas you need to improve on. Excuse me. So again, some of the must-haves, and again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just some things that these are non-negotiables for me. Again, making sure you have internet stability, making sure you have encoder or access to an encoder, making sure your time management skills are on point, making sure your oral and written communication skills are on point, and also maintaining your credential, your continuing education units. So how do you do that? Glad you asked. So as a coding coach and an instructor, I offer virtual mini coding camps for those seeking to pursue an interest in another body of coding work or another specialty. Okay. You can do that through AAPC as well. You can, there's so many different resources out there that will help you maintain your credential as it relates to getting some continuing education units. So yes, so again, I have the virtual mini coding camps. They're $39.99. You can check them out. Check out those resources by visiting www.abrahammedicalcodingcoachllc.com. And also, if you're on YouTube, I have some ICD-10. I call them the ICD-10 coding guideline series, where you see me go through a guideline and I'm breaking it down. I use an example and I apply that specific guideline to it so that you can see how you're supposed to interpret that guideline. Okay. And I know guidelines change and things of that nature. And that is important. So when you get your books, I forgot to add this. Make sure you have up-to-date coding manuals. Make sure you have up-to-date coding manuals. And another benefit of having an encoder is you have up-to-date information as it relates to ICD-10, CM, or PCS, CPT, HCPCS. So, so you're going to be up to date. But if you are like me, I'm old school. I like to touch the books as well. You want to make sure you have up-to-date manuals, and you want to make sure that you go through the coding guidelines in your book to ensure that nothing has changed. And if so, you want to make notes of that. And then, you just want to be up to date. Again, treat your credential, treat your contract as if you're the boss. It's your entity. Okay. So so again, I just want to come on and dispel some of the myths surrounding contract coding. Again, contract coders aren't underqualified. They do not lack the necessary. They actually have the necessary skill set. They may lack the information or the guidance needed to find those resources that will ensure that they are learning, that they're growing, that they're evolving in their career path as a contract coder. And again, some of the benefits of being a contract coder is, again, the flexibility in schedule, the difference between a company hired or company employed coder and a contract coder is the contract coder knows the terms of their contract. So they know their start date, they know their end date. Whereas a company employed coder, they don't know their end date. They could work for years, or they could work for months, or they can work for weeks or days. It depends on the employer, especially if it's in an at-will state. Okay. So I just want to give you a different perspective of contract coding. So for those of you who are in the position where you're considering hiring contract coders, contract coders are really good. Again, provide them the resources that they need to complete the job for you. Okay. They're working for you. They're completing the task for you. So you want to ensure that the contract coder has all of the resources that they need to complete the task for you. So if you have access to an encoder, please provide that access to the contract coder. So all of them are not underqualified. If you feel that they need to meet certain requirements, such as maybe there's internal policies and procedures that must be met, ensure that during your onboarding session with that contract coder, that these things are provided to them, that they are discussed and reviewed with the coder. Be available to answer any questions that he or she may have up front and even throughout the course of the contract. So again, I just want to come on and dispel the myth surrounding contract coders, and also just provide, again, a small list of requirements to be successful as a contract coder. So that's all that I have for today, and hopefully I'll be a little bit more consistent. I'm juggling a lot of things, but so don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Visit our website at www.abrahammedicalcodingcoachllc.com to learn more about the resources that we have available. If you would like some one-on-one time, Abraham Medical Coding Coach LLC.com. We're on Instagram as well as Facebook. So until the next time, y'all stay motivated and stay, doing your best, maintaining yourself as a coder. Toodles.